I fucking love this franchise. The Evil Dead was released in 1981, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Bruce Campbell. And as much as I absolutely love Halloween and Scream, I'd probably say this is still my favorite horror franchise of all time. And with Evil Dead Rise coming out next weekend, and it being my number one most anticipated movie of the year, I figured I would go ahead and do a quick review series of the Evil Dead films. I own multiple copies of all of these movies. Ash vs. Evil Dead as well. You can't see that behind me. It's a box set above the camera. But yeah, I'm a huge Evil Dead fan. This is probably the movie that got me into horror, aside from those cheesy B movie creature features from the 50s that I watched as a child. This was the first proper horror movie I ever watched. So I have a lot of nostalgia for this franchise. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this review, starting off with the good. And this movie, for a horror movie on a very low budget that came out in 1981, holds up extremely well. First of all, you have Bruce Campbell, obviously, as Ash Williams, the main protagonist of this entire franchise. And I don't know what I can say about this character that other people haven't already. I mean, Ash Williams is an icon of horror. Yeah, he's just one of the greatest film protagonists ever made. Probably my favorite horror protagonist of all time. And just the fact that nobody can play this character like Bruce Campbell can. He's such an iconic character, and Bruce Campbell just absolutely steals the show. I don't know how a main character can steal a show, but you know what I mean. He's just absolutely iconic and terrific as this character. He's badass, he's groovy, which that has become the character's catchphrase. And I really like the way he plays the character in this movie especially, because he's not the grizzled badass that you get in Army of Darkness, the last half of Evil Dead 2, or Ash vs. Evil Dead. He's not to that point yet. He's just a teenager who's trying to have a nice weekend away with his friends, his sister, and his girlfriend, and everything goes to shit, so he's forced to deal with it. I just really liked his journey in this movie as a character. And the story and the setting is really, really effective. You got this traditional cabin in the woods setting. There's tradition for horror to have a cabin in the woods setting. And this Book of the Dead that can raise demons to possess the living. Really, really great and iconic and classic stuff. They play off it very well. And the setting really adds to the creepy atmosphere of this movie. And that's another thing. As iconic as this franchise has gotten for a lot of the humor that comes out of it, it's easy to forget that this franchise started off as a horror movie. Like hard R, NC-17 even, rated gory horror. Yeah, this movie is not a comedy. There are no moments of levity. It is very dark. It is very brutal. It is very depressing. And I just really love the way Sam Raimi captured that atmosphere with this movie, especially with the practical effects, with the trees, and that one scene with the trees, you know what I'm talking about. And then you have the makeup and the practical effects on the characters who get possessed and turn into deadites. Really, really great makeup and practical effects there. And the gore effects are really very effective. And the soundtrack and the score obviously adds to this, to the atmosphere that builds and the tension that you get in this movie. This is just an amazing movie. But that's about all for the good. On to the bad. And if I had to say anything about this movie. It's that aside from Ash, all the other characters aren't super memorable, and that is nothing against the actors who play them. They all do great jobs. It's just they're kind of just there to either die or get possessed. And there's nothing wrong with that. You got your cannon fodder characters in every horror movie. But I guess that's just something I'd point out if I had to. But that's about all for the bad. On to the final thoughts. The Evil Dead, still an absolute horror classic, has aged extremely well. Introduced us to Sam Raimi as a director, Bruce Campbell as an actor, and Ash Williams as a character. So, yeah, The Evil Dead, still one of my favorite horror movies of all time, started my favorite horror franchise of all time, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. So that was my thoughts on The Evil Dead. Have you seen this movie? Let me know down in the comments what you thought about it if you have. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.